The 2025 Belgium Grand Prix has become a crucial episode for Lewis Hamilton and its relationship with Ferrari. In this weekend, the classification data has revealed a reality that nobody expected. One of the worst actions of the heptacampion in Spa-Francorchamps. In a circuit where Hamilton has reaped multiple victories in the past, its elimination in Q1 has left an indelible brand, not only in it but in the Italian team. We are going to unravel what really happened in the classification of the Belgian GP and how the numbers paint a complicated panorama for Hamilton's future with Ferrari. From the beginning of the classification, everything seemed to indicate that Hamilton would be in the fight for outstanding positions. But quickly, reality imposed itself abruptly. The 7-time world champion was found outside the classification in Q1, something that many considered unthinkable given their experience and the quality of the Ferrari team. The data showed that Hamilton was eliminated by a minimum fraction of time, but the true cause of his fall was a technical error that could not be overlooked. He exceeded the track limits in the famous Rydillen. According to Fred Vasseur, director of Ferrari, this Hamilton error was reduced to a minimal difference, but the rule is clear. Any violation of the track limits, however small, results in the cancellation of the return. Vasseur acknowledged that, although the elimination was painful, it was not the pilot's fault, but rather a technical issue that escapes the control of the team in such critical moments. The blow was even stronger because, although Hamilton suffered the frustration of being eliminated, his teammate, Charles Leclerc, seemed to be in a sublime form. While Hamilton was relegated to the 16th position on the starting grid, Leclerc achieved an outstanding performance, qualifying in the third row with an impressive third place. This contrast between the two Ferrari pilots was a clear indication that the SF25, although mostly a competitive car, still has limitations in certain areas. This disastrous weekend for Hamilton left many unanswered questions. Was it the SF25 really capable of competing at the level of the best in a circuit like Spa? Or was it the lack of consistency of the car that caused this disaster? For a pilot like Hamilton, which has been characterized by his ability to squeeze until the last gram of performance of his cars, the elimination in Q1 was a difficult blow to digest. But at the same time, this setback could be the starting point for a deeper reflection on the direction of its adaptation to Ferrari's car, as well as the need for the team to affine even more the characteristics of its car to achieve the necessary competitiveness to fight against the strongest teams of the grid. The 2025 Belgium Grand Prix marked a critical point in the Ferrari season and especially in Lewis Hamilton's career with the team. Ferrari had arrived at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit with its most significant update package of the season, designed to improve the performance of the SF25, a car that, despite its advances, continued to show weaknesses in front of rivals such as McLaren and Red Bull. In a weekend that was presented as a key to Ferrari's immediate future, expectations on the impact of these improvements were high. However, the results were mixed, and in the case of Hamilton, the relationship with the car seems to be still very distant from the harmony that both the pilot and the team expected. The update package that Ferrari introduced in SPA focused mainly on the rear suspension of SF25. This modification was crucial, since one of the weak points of the car had been its lack of stability in high-speed curves, a fundamental characteristic in circuits such as Spa, where great adhesion and control of the car in the fastest sectors, such as the famous Rydillen, is required. Modifications in rear suspension geometry were designed to improve aerodynamic efficiency and provide greater grip in these high-speed sections. Despite the promises of Ferrari's engineers about the improvements that these updates could offer, the results were not as forceful as expected. From the first moment Hamilton went to the track with the updated SF25, it became clear that the car was still difficult to drive, especially in the rapid Spa areas. While Charles Leclerc could better adapt to the car and achieve a third place on the grid, Hamilton could not make the most of the performance of the new updates. Telemetry data suggested that Hamilton continued to fight with the balance of the car, which limited its ability to improve its performance, despite the technical advances made in the suspension. Ferrari, meanwhile, acknowledged that although the updates were in the right direction, there was still a significant gap in terms of the competitiveness of the SF25 in front of other teams. The improvement was just 1 or 2 tenths by return, a marginal advance that was not enough to close the gap with the fastest teams of the grid, such as McLaren, which, despite being strong in rapid circuits, also showed a clear domain in Spa. In fact, the data showed that Ferrari still lost more than half a second compared to McLaren in the second Spa sector, a section where aerodynamic stability and grip in rapid curves are crucial. Although the modifications achieved an improvement in aerodynamics in general terms, the difference with McLaren in terms of track performance was too wide to be considered a victory for Ferrari. The team also faced the reality that the SF25, even with the updates, continued to have difficulty finding the right balance in high-speed curves. The modified suspension, although theoretically improved, could not offer the type of stability that was needed to maintain competitive rhythm throughout the circuit. Ferrari engineers, headed by Loic Serra, worked intensely throughout the weekend, but the first indications suggested that the improvements were too marginal to make a substantial difference in a circuit as demanding as a Spa. This weekend in Spa made it clear that Ferrari, despite the improvements, remains a team in transition. The SF25 performance, even with key updates, is not enough to compete at the level of the most dominant teams. This not only puts pressure on engineers and technical staff, but also about Lewis Hamilton, who must find a way to maximize the performance of a car that, although promising, remains an unknown in its ability to fight for consistent victories. For Hamilton, this weekend in Belgium is a reminder that the road to success with Ferrari will not be easy, and that the real battle is just beginning. The weekend at the 2025 Belgium Grand Prix left Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari with a cluster of important lessons. For Hamilton, the disastrous classification in Spa-Francorchamps became a strong reminder of the challenges he faces in this new stage of his career. As a Ferrari pilot, expectations are very high, and after years of dominance with Mercedes, adapting to a completely different car is not an easy task. Despite their experience and multiple championships, SF25 adaptation has not been as simple as many expected. One of the most important lessons for Hamilton is the need for patience. Mercedes' transition to Ferrari is not a simple team change. It is a complete reconfiguration of your approach and driving style. In Mercedes, Hamilton had a car that adjusted to his style, with aerodynamic stability and a balance that allowed him to fight for victories with an almost absolute confidence. But SF25 presents very different characteristics. It is a car that, although powerful in certain aspects, still lacks the necessary consistency in demanding circuits such as Spa. For Hamilton, this means that you must learn to extract the best of Ferrari, a process that will probably take more time than you initially anticipated. The SF25 has shown advances, but it is still a car with clear limitations, especially in the high-speed curves where McLaren seems to dominate. For Ferrari, this means that there is still work to be done. The team should not only focus on updates in themselves, but also on how to integrate them effectively in the global car settings. The difference with McLaren is not simply technical, it is also strategic. While McLaren continues to show an impressive development capacity, Ferrari still seems to be trapped in a transition phase, trying to optimize his car while fighting to overcome competition on the tracks. The 2025 Belgium Grand Prix has been a reflection of the complexities that Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari must face in their search for competitiveness. Although the expectations were high, especially considering Hamilton's history in SPA and the potential of the SF25, the results showed that the road to the top is not as direct as many anticipated. The elimination of Hamilton in Q1, despite being a surprise, is also a clear sample of the pressure and the challenges that both the pilot and the team face. Despite having been one of the most painful eliminations of his career, this incident also offers an opportunity to reflect and learn, both for Hamilton and Ferrari. The lesson for Ferrari is that the improvements, although necessary, do not always translate immediately into a competitive advantage. Maranello's team is clear that the SF25 still has a margin of improvement, and the updates introduced in Belgium are not the definitive solution. Ferrari needs to continue its development, but also quickly adapt to the needs of its pilots, especially Hamilton, who faces the challenge of dominating a car that does not respond with the same precision as its former Mercedes. This shows that, despite technical advances, real success will only be achieved when the team is able to integrate its improvements effectively and maintain consistency in performance. For Hamilton, the elimination in the SPA Q1 not only marks a low point, but also shows that the transition to Ferrari is more complicated than initially thought. The British pilot, although incredibly experienced, is going through a learning curve that requires patience and a deeper adaptation to the characteristics of the SF25. Although their times in the first sessions of the weekend were not so far from those of Leclerc, the fact of not being able to make the most of the updates of the car stands out that there is still work to be done. Hamilton must find a balance in its piloting that allows you to maximize the performance of the car, something that will only achieve through a constant evolution and adjustment of your approach. The way to success is long, and the Belgium Grand Prix has shown that neither the world champions nor the most historical teams are exempt from the difficulties inherent to Formula One. As Ferrari and Hamilton continue to face these challenges, the 2025 season is emerging as a true resistance test for both.